Welcome to Internet Changemakers, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the Internet's past, present, and future. Join us as we dive into the biggest challenges and opportunities in online trust, privacy, accessibility, and the ever-evolving digital landscape. Whether you're a tech expert or just curious about the Internet's impact on your life, this podcast is your gateway to understanding and shaping a trustworthy, open, and accessible online world. Stay tuned, because the future of the Internet starts with you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Internet Changemakers. When was the last time you looked at your internet bill and gasped? Maybe you thought, my internet isn't even that strong. Why does it cost so much? Well, today we're going to answer that and more with our guest, Alejandra Stolk.
Alejandra Stolk is an everywhere woman. Not only is she an alumna of the Mid-Career Fellowship and current fellow of the Community Fellowship, she also serves as the president of the Internet Society Venezuela Chapter and tutors our course on encryption. All the while, she serves as the Network Connectivity Manager at the University of Andes. Welcome, Alejandra.
Hi, Noha and Claire. It's really nice for me to be here. It's really exciting to be part of the podcast of the alumni. As you mentioned, I am alumni from 2 fellowships now, and it's very exciting to be here and get back to the community.
Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to start with a question that we really enjoy asking our guests because it helps show the diversity of the Internet. So, what is your favorite use of the Internet?
Wow. I use the internet for everything these days because I watch my favorite videos, I hear music, and normally I work with music, so I am always using some kind of audio streaming to work and to concentrate. And also my work is on the internet, so I'm an internet girl.
An internet girl in an internet world. That's what I like to hear. So, to start us off, I would really like to know, from your point of view, what is the connection between cost and access? Can you draw that line for us?
Well, we normally use, when we are educating people about the internet, the analogy of a highway. Internet is built around routers, switches, and devices that connect us, and they have different levels of connection. So our access could be the way we are connected to the internet, and that access can vary the costs for our bill. If we are, for example, in a rural area where we don't have too many ISPs to offer internet, the cost will be different if we are in a very well-served area where we have competition and we don't have a monopoly ISP charging us. So it varies a lot from where you are and the condition of the geographical place you are and where in the world you are.
Thank you, Alejandra, for your clarification. So I was wondering, what determines the price of the internet connectivity?
Well, as I was saying, in that highway, we have different points of payment. We pay our ISP for the last mile and the connection they do to their ISP, because there are tiers for ISPs. Tiers that connect only the backbone of the internet, the backbone that builds routers to routers, and they don't have any clients. And then we have the ISPs that are closer to us that connect routers to us. So it's like a building block of payment. They have to pay for their highway and we have to pay for the road and not the highway. But that goes of why we pay a lot in some places. If, for example, if we need fiber optics and also we need a radio to connect, the cost will be higher. Or if we use satellite, for example, it will be a higher bill. But we have to manage that cost too. And the debate of the affordability of our costs is very important too, because sometimes it's too much.
So, is there a correlation between the amount of ISPs and the cost?
Yes, definitely. Where we have monopolies in every service, the cost goes higher. And also sometimes because the cost for them to get to you, it's higher too. For example, if you are going to have a fiber optics for a small town that will serve 100 people, normally the cost is higher because it's a very big investment to get to the place where you are, and then it will be shared with a small amount of people. And normally in those places, we don't have too many ISPs, maybe one, maybe two at best, because if the population is small, why would you be there if there are two ISPs already there? So it's definitely, if more ISPs, the lesser the cost in some ways.
All right. So, how the geographical factor contributes in determining the price, and what kind of regional cooperation is happening to improve access and bringing down the costs?
Wow, that's a complex question. But if you are in a geographically challenged position, for example, in a mountain where you have to pass fiber optics in a very complex geographical situation, definitely the cost will be higher. For example, here in our mountainous region, the fiber optics goes through the air, and that puts a lot of effort because being in the air, it's risky. If a truck goes by and collide with the cables, we will have a problem of connection, and then they have to change again the fiber optics, and that increases the costs. When you have connections that are very stable and you don't have to change the cable every now and then, the cost should be lower. But it's not that related, because we can see, for example, in the Netherlands, the costs are very high and the connection is very stable. So there are other factors. In the developed world, we have taxes, we have other costs. In the rural areas of the world and in the least developed part of the world, the connectivity goes more, the cost of the connectivity is more related to the effort that the ISP is doing to connect you, and not of the taxes and the permissions. Those are not the very high value prices. But in the cities, we have taxes, we have, for example, access to some key parts of the city cost a lot. If you are in London and you want to have your fiber optics go through a very populated area, that will cost you a lot. So the variables vary from where you are, but definitely the geographical position is a very important factor with the price.
It's really interesting to see how interdisciplinary this becomes very quickly. So there's the tech side, and that's one piece. But then the other piece is just natural economics and how the economics and the tech come together to make all sorts of challenges and also probably solutions. You mentioned that the geography and particularly the mountains can make a difference when it comes to connectivity and pricing. And we also know that you teach at Universidad de los Andes. I hope I pronounced that okay. And we all know that the Andes are an incredibly mountainous region. Can you give any examples from your region in the Andes of how connectivity pricing has affected communities there?
Well, here in the Andes, we have a very rich area with mountains. For example, this year we had landslides that affected the connectivity because we have mudslides that turn down many parts of the infrastructure. So it's very critical to have a combination. For example, in the university, we have parts that are connected through air, connected by Wi-Fi signal, because it's very difficult to get fiber optics to them and it's not cost effective. So we have an air connection using the air, which is wonderful that we have the air and we can use it to our advantage, but it has some challenges because we use a free area of the spectrum, and that has challenges too because many people use it. So sometimes we have too many people using the same bandwidth. It's a challenge, especially in populated parts. So we have to combine. We have to combine air and fiber optics. Of course, we want fiber optics to be everywhere because it's easier, it's more reliable, it's more resilient. But when you have geographical challenges, you have to support some part in the Wi-Fi and in the radio access. And it's very useful for the first time we want to put internet in a town or in a rural area or in a very tiny region. For example, the university has been working with the schools in the rural areas. So we can take the university internet to them. And it's supposed to be only for educational purposes, and it has an area that we have to respect of consuming that bandwidth for the purposes we have. But it also permits the school children to access internet there when they are at school, so they can make homework using internet and they can connect to different materials that they don't have at home because they are in areas where they don't have a good internet, or maybe they have some data in their cell phones, but it's not that good to use for everything.
You mentioned that some of these communities are quite small. And when you have these larger providers that are for-profit organizations in the private sector, is there an incentive for them to connect these folks, or does that have to come from within the community?
That's a challenge because when you don't have the economical part of the equation in, if you are a tiny town, you know that the major companies will not go there because it's not financially good for them. It's a cost for them. But we have a vision that we have to connect everybody. So we try to combine the social part of those ISPs. That there are many countries that have a social infrastructure, and that you have as part of your taxes to have social projects, developed projects, and we are using that to get to the small towns. So it's a mix between the community and the ISPs. Sometimes it's a mix of the municipality and the city owning, or the town owning the internet, and sometimes it's the community that owns the internet because they don't have, the ISPs tell them it's too much and we are not going to receive the return on our investment in many years, so it's not feasible for us.
I see. And at the Internet Society, we talk a lot about community-centered connectivity. And when you mention these community solutions, is that what you're referencing, community networks? And if so, do community networks actually bring down costs?
Well, in the Internet Society part of the question, we are very focused in connecting communities and with a purpose. Many times we connect just to connect, and in the past, that was the way to do it. They need connection, so let's go and connect them. But we have seen in the past that's not the only thing we have to do. Sometimes communities are not ready to be connected. They have to know what they need from the internet, and they have to be prepared to receive the internet. Otherwise, it becomes just social network garbage thing. But we need to have a purpose. Why do they need connection? What is going to bring to that community the internet? Is going to bring doctors that can go online with them. It's going to bring education. It's going to bring investment. Maybe they can sell their products. So it's a combination. And as you were saying, it's not only the technical part, the infrastructure part, it's also the social background and the social network that they have to build to receive the connection and make it their own. That's also very difficult to make, that they change from this is a project that someone is doing for us to this is our internet and we are going to protect it. And so we don't have people stealing devices or the fiber optics, and also people that is using the internet for a purpose. Also, teaching people technical skills to be our last mile technicians, because sometimes it's places where it's difficult to go and it's good to have people there. So that's the Internet Society's approach. The social part of an ISP that has a tax cut because they're doing a social-based project is different, because they know there is a town where they are not going because of financial purposes, and they say to the regulator, let's connect this town because we're going to invest, I don't know, $100,000, and we're going to cut it to the tax. And the regulator says, okay, let's do that. You have to do, I don't know how many projects to the year. We accept this project. And that's a different part of the equation, because even though they are doing the socially purpose network, when they go there, they're still an ISP, and they will have normally a less expensive connection, a social connection that it's cheaper than the ones in the city, but it's a different type of connection. They don't have support to bring a meaningful connection. And then there is the connections that the community knows they need a connection. Sometimes we have, for example, in Venezuela, in the Amazonas region, where it's a jungle and the Amazon, that there is very difficult to connect because you don't have highways, you don't have good cell phone connections. And in those communities, satellites are becoming a very good solution. But it's them that tell us, we need help. Do you know how we are capable to connect to the internet using satellites? And then we give them some kind of support and advice and the experience we have had in other regions.
Oh, Noha just cut out. We know that there is a storm happening in Egypt right now, but oh, we see she's back. Okay. Noha, I would actually love for you to talk about this a bit.
So sorry for this. It was like a sudden, unscheduled power cut. And even though I live in the city, but we still have power cuts from time to time. Sorry about that. And this also affected my connectivity to this meeting. So, yeah, I can imagine, even though I'm living in the city, people in the rural areas are more affected than me.
Yes, that's a very good factor to count in the costs and the accessibility to internet, because when we have problems with the power supply, we have definitely problems with connectivity. Rural areas are more prone to have this problem because they have a less reliable electricity, but it also happens in the cities, especially when we have bad weather, especially when we have peaks of warm weather. There is also problems with electricity, and that affects the internet. And that goes to the cost of maintaining the infrastructure too, because if we want to have a resilient internet that goes through the power cuts, we need another devices like power plants, like solar panels, like other factors that will add to the cost and to the maintaining a bill of all the infrastructure.
Yeah, thank you, Alejandra. It was like we have a kind of a storm, which I believe affected the power. So that's why, yeah, so many factors can affect our connectivity. So I can imagine how the whole connectivity experience can differ from one person or another, to one city to another, to one village to another, within the same country, even.
Yes, sometimes it's in the same neighborhood.
Exactly. Alejandra, will you please tell us, how does network resilience fare during natural disasters or political instability, or what improvements are needed here?
Well, resilient internet is a very strong thing that we are working on, because in many places we already have internet, but it's not resilient. But it's in the midst of power cuts or political situations that also cut internet from time to time on part of the internet from time to time. It's a mercy of the weather factors, at mercy of the political situation. It's different things that affect it, and we have to build a very resilient internet, so it's every day there. We don't have to think about it every day. It's like electricity. In many places we forget we have a service, and when we don't have it is when we remember, oh, okay, we have a power cut, what do we have to do? And with internet is like that. When it works very well, we forget that it's there and that many people is working there for you to have the service. But we have to work, for example, in backups, in the power plants, that in the solar panels that will be there when you have a power cut, that will be there to have, for example, another way to go in that highway that is the internet. If something happens, we need another path to be there. For example, in institutions like mine that are big, we have not one ISP, but two and sometimes three ISPs. Because if we have a problem with one, then we have a second connection, and users don't even know that's happening behind the curtains. And it's like that also in the infrastructure. If you have a power plant that goes there in your data center, you will not know that there is a power cut, but something is it's going on to have that internet for you. And that's a very big part of the cost too.
Yeah, I totally agree that internet connectivity is a privilege that we can take for granted for sure, just like what happened with me a few minutes ago. And thank you for sharing so much about affordability and how we price the internet and the causes and consequences. But we would love to hear more about you and your work. So you do a lot of work with the Internet Society. So can you give us a rundown of all of your ISOC activities?
Well, I started many years ago to be part of my chapter, the Venezuelan chapter, and I came from the technical part of the internet. My interest started in that part, but as I grew in the Internet Society, I have been more and more aware of the political and the policies and all the other aspects that are very important for the internet. So for me, Internet Society has brought a lot of a multilateral way of thinking to the internet, and also the part of working with the learning platform and people from all over the world. It's very nice. It's an experience that gives you different perspectives. So now I think I have grow with the Internet Society and get outside the technical aspects where I'm really comfortable, and get to know the other aspects, get to know the people that works in other parts of the internet. Is really nice. And I think with that brainstorms we have, we make internet more resilient and more accessible for people. I never knew how the internet went to the rural areas until I got in the Internet Society and started to speak with ISPs. Come on, let's give this project a go. You can give that, and speak with everybody, politicians. When do you have to shut your mouth because there is a struggle, a political struggle, and you have to become more humble and wait for the right moment to ask for what you're needing. That's also a very important part of it. And I also work in a country where we have a very political problem. So we have been working with that and knowing when to speak, when to keep quiet and calm, and to speak without speaking loudly. So the situation gets out of Venezuela, but we are in a safe position. That has been really a struggle too, to juggle that part, because we don't want to be silent, but we want to be there for the people, and not to be a part of the problem. And I have also been the president of the chapter for a few years now, which is a very nice experience for me because it brings a lot of different aspects from the conversation. And to speak with the global staff, for example, it has been a privilege. I had the opportunity to go to Kuala Lumpur this year and to meet with my fellow Internet Society members in Asia, which has been a privilege too. I never thought of going to Kuala Lumpur and meet people from all over the world, and for me, to very exotic places like Nepal or Thailand, or I don't know, so many places. And it's very good also to know that they suffer the same things we do. We are not that special. We are not that unique as we sometimes think we are, because the problems are the same. The global south is very similar, even though sometimes our languages are so different, our religions are so different, but our very common problems are the same. And the internet it's a tool that it's the same no matter where you are. So that's very enriching for me as an alumni, as part of the Internet Society.
I think it's beautiful that even if you feel lonely in your challenges where you are, when you look across borders, across languages, across cultures, you can all find commonalities in challenges that we face. And it actually makes them seem a little bit less lonely, which I think is a beautiful thing. And another beautiful thing that I'm very honored to talk about with you is your work that you do to capacity build. You are a tutor for our encryption course, which means that you teach, as you said, students around the world. And I am a big fan of our online courses because they do the crucial work of scaling the knowledge that we have to be able to help people around the world. Do you have any experiences in your tutoring that have helped you? Or in other words, even though you tutor your students, in what ways do your students tutor you?
Oh, that's a both ways road. Every cohort is different, and also the regions differ because, for example, in Latin America, the public of the courses is different from Africa or from Asia, but they all give you some different aspects of the internet, and it's very enriching for me because sometimes we have very young students that have a very different blow-minding experience with me because I'm used to students from the university. So students from other parts of their life is very nice. The Youth Ambassador program, for example, was really nice, the group, because they were really technical. They knew their stuff. They were born with the internet. So they have a different way of thinking. They give the internet, granted internet. We have internet everywhere, every day. And you have to tell them, okay, that's not the way everywhere. And then you have people that have become aware of the internet a few years ago, and they're still very cautious about the internet and what to say and what to do there. So it's really nice. And I'm always learning from them. And the learning platform, I think, is critical because it gives the opportunity to many people to have that first spot of capacity building that they need for community networks, for encryption, for network administration. It's a world of opportunity there.
Thank you, Alejandra, for sharing your advocacy journey and your academic journey as well. Thank you for keep going and giving back to the community in so many different ways, and how you empower others to join the ISOC activities. That was really inspiring. I really enjoyed hearing about your journey, and I also enjoyed having you as a guest in today's episode. So thank you.
Thanks, Noha. It was really nice to be here. I really enjoy the time with you. And also, I was really excited to be in this podcast.
The pleasure was ours, Alejandra. I will pass the mic to Claire if she still has any questions.
Thank you, Noha. And I echo your sentiments that having someone like you, Alejandra, serving our global community the way you do is really special. And I see you as an internet leader of today. And my question for you is, based on your work in your field, what do the internet leaders of tomorrow need to be studying to make sure that we're ready for the challenges that come in the future?
Wow. What a question. Well, I would like the leaders of the internet of tomorrow to be more equal, to be us more represented. I'm always one of the few women in the field. I would like to see more women, especially doing the dirty work, not working in the soft part of the internet, but in the infrastructure and in the more technical part of it. So I would like to see us more represented. I also want the people of internet of the future to be more aware that this is not something to take for granted. Sometimes in our countries, we develop a sense of this is always going to be here as we know it, and it's not. We have many threats in our internet landscape. threats in the form of encryption laws that could make it debilitated, and sometimes authorities want to control the internet, put borders to the internet, and fragment the internet. It will be a shame that the internet will lose the openness and the interoperability and the borderless part of it. So I think that's a work for the future internet developers.
Alejandra, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge with us and our community.
It was a real pleasure for me.
That's it for this episode of Internet Changemakers. If you enjoyed it, subscribe and share. The internet is for everyone, and we all play a role in keeping it safe and open. Want to learn more? Visit internetsociety.org/learning for free self-paced courses on privacy, internet governance, and more. Support our mission to build a stronger, more inclusive internet, and consider donating via the link in the show notes. To connect with our global alumni network, visit our website and follow us online. Until next time, stay curious and help shape the internet's future.